Thank
So,
you all for joining me and Vice President Klein and obviously Jessica, Joe, BA. I know and Jake, I'm seeing some members of the administration. I'm sorry if I'm not, picking up everyone's, but this really is a tradition that we have, whether it's virtual or in person. We organize a time when there's an opportunity for the students, you, all gather to ask any questions that you might have and to get any updates that we have as far as what is in store at Anna Maria. So I've already started by saying that we're right in the throes of our 75th anniversary. It's an exciting year. You're going to be a part of it, and I hope you participate in it. It's really a testimony to the growth of this institution and the acknowledgement in the community about how things are going well and that we have been cited on a couple of occasions. You may not be aware of it as students, but at the Massachusetts level of organizations and certainly the Worcester level, we've been asked on many occasions to present and talk about what we did to open, last fall and what we're planning on doing for the spring. The main thrust of this meeting is, of course, to talk to you about the spring. But I would be remiss by first not saying I hope that you had a good semester break. It was a little bit longer and continues to be. It's a little bit over 2 weeks before you're expected back in the classroom. Some of you, by the way, I know have been taking or took a class. We had about 20 offerings for the winter break because we had that extended time, and it really worked out well, I think, for everyone, and faculty were really on board with that. So for those of you who took the class, I hope you're enjoying it. I think you're tying that up. Was it next week, I believe, is the last week?
mhm.
Maybe it's into the next week, I'm not sure. But for those of you who didn't, I hope you had a good rest. I'm sure many of you were working. I hope as well that you're all safe and that you're healthy and that your families are healthy. And we look forward to, of course, to 2021 to be able to see the downward slide of COVID so that we can start getting back into a more regular routine. The opposite, in a way, is happening here on campuses. Last fall, when we started, it was pretty low rate of positivity. Things had quieted down a little bit, and a lot of schools, even though they went remote, we're not as concerned about the rate. Right now, it's high. You're aware of that. You've been watching the news, and you see that it escalated. Well, a lot of that is because people are inside. It's not for, I don't think, certainly on this call, for the lack of not being careful and following procedures, but unfortunately, the winter has forced us inside and has increased that rate of cases. But as I mentioned earlier, the governor has started to release some of the restrictions in Massachusetts, Governor Baker, and we're very optimistic about that because we're going to start seeing the curve going down, which is kind of the opposite of what we saw in the fall and you experienced at the end of the fall with that kind of increase. And we had to make some decisions that we didn't want to make right before Thanksgiving, but felt in the best interest of the campus. So again, I hope you're all rested. I hope you're all safe and that your families and you are experiencing a good, healthy semester break. Planning continued pretty robustly and continues to be ongoing over the semester break, the end of it, and anticipating what we had to do for the spring, include from beginning of classes right through to commencement. So it's not that we just sat back and said, well, let's see what happens. There have been improvements made to the classrooms. There have been improvements made to some of the facilities on campus in anticipation of what we learned from the fall. One of the great things about having the fall be as good as it was and having your support on that, because you really were very supportive in making sure that the policies and the protocols that we set in place at the beginning in August, you were terrific in following them. And frankly, I've been bragging about you whenever asked about how the students reacted to all of the requirements that we had to do, to stay safe. So, but we can always improve, and that's what's been going on in the discussions with the administration that's, you know, primarily responsible for that. Most of it led by Vice President Klein. He is going, if you haven't already, and I know you were dying for this to come out, which is the revised spring return to campus procedures policies related to Anna Maria College. Now, it's not a whole new document. That document that you saw in the fall was really very thorough, but there have been some improvements made and some changes. And as we go forward here, I'm going to ask Vice President Klein to go over those with you to make you aware of it. That's the main reason for this call, not only just to check in with you, not only to say we're very eager to welcome you back. It's been pretty quiet around here. You know, most of the administration and faculty, of course, are remote. We made that decision before Thanksgiving to say to anyone, if you can and want to and can work remotely, please feel free. We did that even before the governor said, you know, I think it's time for you to consider staying home. So we made some good decisions early, and I think it's paid off for us. But it's been pretty quiet around here, so we're really eager to see everyone kind of come back on campus. And from what I can gather, we have about the same percentage of students who are planning on coming back to campus and coming back, you know, to in-person classes, whether you're a resident or a commuter, as we had in the fall. So the percentages are about the same, which is good. The same with the faculty and staff. I mean, let's face it, some of the faculty and staff have reasons themselves for teaching or working remotely, whether it's related to health issues or whether it's related to childcare. And many times it's a mix. So that's where we're at right now as far as what's going on at Anna Maria. We're very happy that we're able to open. But you know, if something happens, well, we'll deal with it and we'll pivot and we'll certainly keep you informed. But right now, we're very optimistic that the things that we have in place will be assure you of your safety and your comfort and your learning experience here at Anna Maria. It seems that we had a good higher number of students, congratulations, on the Dean's List than we did in the previous year. Kudos to that. For those of you who were on the Dean's List, that is a real testimony to your ability to adapt and to work hard to make sure that no matter what you're presented, you can succeed. Some students had a little bit more difficulty in adapting, and for that, you know, the Student Success Center presented a program that I think is really quite valuable to everyone. It's called Moving Ahead, Don't Look Back, and looking for ways to improve how you learn, how to manage your time. So those of you on the call who are involved in that, congratulations on that too. I hear it's 100% attendance so far. I don't get that in my meetings. So, you know, good for you that you're participating in that. I'm very proud of you and very proud of this program. Matter of fact, we're going to try to look at that and offer it to anyone that would be interested in it, that will help them no matter what institution they attend. And certainly we'll look at it to present to our prospective students. I know that both on the end of the faculty in their courses, they're looking to improve the student engagement component. They're in a learning curve too, don't forget, you know, many of them had not taught that way. So for those that did a very good job of keeping you engaged and making it a great experience, they are also doing a professional development day to enhance their own skills in order to make sure that the learning that you're going to experience in the spring is as solid as possible. And I know on the student life aspect, they're also looking for social, spiritual, and athletic components that will continue to engage you, that will continue to interest you, along with that oversight of that whole 75th anniversary celebration. So get used to seeing 75 everywhere. It's going to be a hallmark for all the spring and the fall semester. It's going to run all year. So from January 1st, 21 to December 31st, 21. Hard to believe we're in 2021. By the way, if you're interested, it's 1/21/21 today. So if you're so inclined, go get a ticket or something with those numbers on it. I didn't win the Powerball. I was hoping. Someone in Maryland did. Boy, we would have gone to town here, huh, on campus with that kind of a Powerball win. But alas, there's mega bucks tonight, so I'm Mega Millions, so I'm hopeful for that. We'll see what happens. I'm going to now turn it over to Vice President Klein. Now, at the end of this, we'll open it up, obviously, for questions and any other concerns that you might have or any things that you want me to address. But I do want to just say I'm very happy to see you. I'm looking forward to your coming back to classes or back to the res halls, seeing some activity back on campus. I think we took a nice long break. The decision to start February 8th was, I think, a spot on one. It was a good decision. And you still have 2 weeks in order to kind of relax and get caught up with all the things that you couldn't do while you were in classes. So enjoy that time. And I'm still obviously going to stay on and answer any questions that you might have as we go forward. You know, at any time, you can reach out directly to me. And I will do my best to reply to you as quickly as I can. But at this point, I'd like to ask Vice President Klein if he wouldn't mind highlighting some of the things in our policy handbook that the students might be interested in.
Right. Thank you, President Rattel. I'm going to a few things I want to show you. And again, when we get to the policy handbook, particularly things that have changed or that we want to emphasize are what I'm going to go over. But the first screen that I'm going to share with you is actually the state of Massachusetts mass.gov page. This is a page that I spend time on every day, and every time I go to it, it refreshes. But what we're going to see here, we may even see the live data because it updates every day at around 5 o'clock with the previous day's data. But this is where the state posts how many new positive tests have been reported each day, how many hospitalizations, deaths, and as you see on the homepage now on the new interactive board, even breaks it down by age. So from yesterday, there were 4,800 new confirmed cases in the Commonwealth, which is slightly higher than the day before. And this is an unexpected error. Okay. So what I would show you, I'll hit refresh, but I'll just describe. The other graph I was going to show you was the 7-day average and kind of the peaks and valleys. And there was a peak in March, obviously, I think that we're all aware of. And the numbers were low through the summer, low through the early fall, and then started to peak again in early November, and a little bit late October. One of the things we talked a lot at a lot of different levels, and obviously it's not updating correctly, so I apologize on behalf of Governor Baker. We looked at what are we looking for this fall? What do we want to keep an eye on? What might be a problem to think about? And really, when we thought about Halloween weekend, we thought, okay, that's another traditional party weekend, like the first weekend of school, like a homecoming weekend on some campuses, things like that. We didn't expect it to cause the surge that it did, both on and off campuses. A little bit on our campus, not as much as with some of our peers in the area, but that really—
Halloween is a part.
I'm sorry? So if, again, and then there was a peak you could see on the state chart, the forward post, around Thanksgiving and around Christmas and New Year's. So it's related to being indoors. It's related to the virus just doing better in cold and cooler weather, and also at the family gatherings when people weren't, in the words of the health secretary for the state of Massachusetts, maintaining bubble integrity. But what it also shows is we're currently on the downward slide of the second surge. So the numbers are still slightly higher than they were in March, but there's been a steady decrease for the past 10 days. And, we're confident, we can't guarantee, but we're confident that's going to continue. And that's why we feel confident that February 8th still makes sense as a good day to start our spring semester. Because if the trends continue the way they're going and people continue to be, kind of responsible and things moving the way they are, the initial impact of the vaccine should start to help, at some level. And I'll talk more about the vaccine later on today, of course. The trends are happening in a positive way. This screen is showing the testing dashboard. It's a summary of our fall tests on campus. So these are the tests that we had on campus. We had 31 positive tests from all of our testing. 21 were students and 10 were employees. And then we had 7 of the people who tested off campus and reported the positive test to us. And within that, when we break it down by month, we had 5 in August. So, really one of those was, or 2 of those, I guess, were upon return to campus, 1 student and 1 employee, and then a couple scattered through, 3 scattered through September, and then 10 in October. That's toward the end, as we know, 13 in November. One thing I want to point out here and really reinforce President Rattel's point is that our spread on campus, cases that were spread from one person to another, were limited to 2 incidents. We had an off-campus resident and two students we lived with off campus contracted it from him. And then we had an on-campus resident who actually went home to a Halloween party and came back and 2 suite mates became infected. So that's a total of 4 of the 31 were actually contracted from somebody else on campus. The others were, individual, kind of one-offs that happened somewhere else. That's a good sign. That means that if somebody was sick, that everything we had in place having to do with the quarantine, the masks, the distancing, everything we put in place worked. And when we talk about that with other schools and we say, what was your spread like? And we share this, we get asked a lot, how did you do it? What happened there? And it really, we worked hard to put everything in, but we had such good cooperation from our community. And I thank you and everybody for that. So cases were going to happen. We know it. It's not easy. It's not hard to, not hard to say that, like, I don't want to be casual when I say that, but we know that. But the fact that the preparation was in place and the response from the student, we were able to manage the spread. It could have been much, much, much worse than it was. So, we're thankful for that. The email that announced this had a link to this. This is on annamaria.edu/COVID-19. Again, we encourage you all to look at it. First thing I want to highlight on here is going to be the spring schedule that we have. As you know, students are going to start arriving the week of February 4th through the 7th. Classes that begin on the 8th and then proceed through March, April, and May. One thing we had to do when we chose to do when we decided to open later, still try to finish at a reasonable time in May and to control possible spread. You'll see there is no spring break this year. We fully intend to put it back, unless you tell us you like a semester without a spring break. But this year, to get things done quickly, to put aside the worry of people leaving and for a week and coming back and having to quarantine upon their arrival back on campus. To make the calendar work. So, there's a Friday off for Good Friday, Patriots Day off, President's Day in February, but it may be a little bit tough. And once you start getting the mindset now of, we'll get through this, but it was something we felt was very important to do to maintain the integrity of our bubble, so to speak, and also finish it in a timely manner. Commencement celebrations will be May 21st to 23rd. We'll have 5 small celebrations on Friday night, 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. So people will have an in-person commencement. We'll be able to do it in groups that'll be manageable. They'll be outdoors under a tent within what we anticipate to be the state guidelines. There may be a limit on the number of guests, but we will live stream, of course. But we'll really want to bring back the personal in-person commencement celebration. We're going to invite the class of 2020 to participate as well if they'd like to, and make sure our seniors have that experience. So that's our current plan, and it'll be on campus, on our home. So we're really excited about that, and a lot of work and conversation has gone into that. The next session of the campus guidelines and safety protocols, much the same as you experienced in the fall. Again, we think things worked well. We'll still start off the year with no guests. If things work well, if the vaccine, we get close to herd immunity and we can amend these things along the way, we will, as long as we can do so safely. But we'll begin the fall semester with no guests on campus, including in the residence halls. We're asking anybody who travels to make sure that they quarantine and test upon their return. So if you have to leave the state during the semester for any reason, when you come back, self-quarantine until you've gone to the testing site and received one negative test, and then you can resume your activities. That's a state guideline. If that were to change, we'll announce that and put that into place as well. Something else I want to be really clear on is the social distancing includes wearing a face covering, a mask, and staying 6 feet apart or more. I ran into a few students this year who were congregating, and they said, well, if we have a mask, we can be inside of 6 feet. And that's not correct. It's a mask plus 6. And we'll put out some new signage and educational materials this year to really reinforce that, because that will control us, having to quarantine fewer people and control the spread of the virus. Speaking of the masks, just a reinforcement that we expect masks to be a thick fabric and/or 3 layers and/or a surgical mask, the N95 or the K95 masks. We have instructions on the proper way to remove them. We did see some masks that were very thin, some gaiters that are really made to be, sunblock and not a virus type mask. Some you can really see through them. And if I can see through your mask, then the virus can probably get through. So please, give some thought to what mask you're using and mask up appropriately. The surveillance testing will continue. We will continue to test everybody. If you're on campus 3 days a week or more, we expect you to test twice weekly. We've been doing it, of course, as you know, the state is asking all colleges to do this now. There'll be even more testing going on in the state of Massachusetts. We'll be testing from Monday to Thursday. I'll send out an email with this and the full testing schedule. And quick side note, please read my emails. I'll try to limit them to 1 a week. I'll try to keep them short or bullet pointed, but what I'm sending out is really critical information. So we'll post it on the webpage, but it's really the best way I have to getting it to everybody. I know some of you prefer different social media platforms, but I know if I send an email, it's in your inbox somewhere. Resident students, you will test on Mondays and Thursdays. That will help us with compliance. So Tuesday, Friday, we can run the list against our resident list and see who missed. Also, the Thursday test, we can catch everybody before the weekend, before they go out Friday. So if there's a positive test, we don't have to worry about any contacts on Friday nights. Commuter students, if you're on campus every day, we'd like you to keep the Monday, Thursday schedule. But if your schedule is on campus Monday, Wednesday, then test on Monday and Wednesdays. If you're on campus Tuesday, Thursday, do the Tuesday, Thursday. Again, commuters, your schedules are more flexible. If you're on campus 3 days a week or more, we'd like to see 2 days. We need to see 2 days of testing, non-consecutive if possible. And if it's not possible, get that second test in anyway. So, work it with your schedule. And then employees will be doing the same things. The testing center will be in Jocks until we can move it outside as well. And will be much the same. You might see a couple little different tweaks to the processes when you walk in, but it'll be much the same system as it was. The GoVerified app, we're starting the semester with it up and running. Right now, if you're getting a negative, even if you're entering symptoms, that's expected because you're negative if you have not entered symptoms or not tested within 8 days. So until you test, it's not going to show up as cleared. So carry it with you. We're adding more stations where this will be checked. So residents be expected to be checked when you're coming in the residence halls now and then. We're going to add some checking in the dining halls. We're training the faculty on the script and what to look for. We recognize that those of you who remember August, the app wasn't ready. It's ready now, it's running, we're running it through the tests. New students who are joining us now, they're having no problem getting it up and running. If you are having any issues, send an email to either IT support or to me, and we can walk you through it. It may be as simple as a password change, but it's going to be very important that you keep this up. It's how we're monitoring compliance with the testing, as well as the symptom checking, and you will see more checkpoints than you saw in the fall. So please be ready for that. Our isolation and quarantining will work much the same as it did. Somebody who tests positive will be in an isolation space. Somebody who is a close contact of a positive test, so you were with them for more than 15 minutes, or you're with them shorter than that without a mask. A lot of times it was a roommate or somebody I had a meal with that turns out to be a close contact. That's going to happen again, no fault of somebody, in situations like that. The one thing that's changed with the quarantine for the state guidelines is if there's a negative test on the 10th day, you can be released then. It doesn't need to be the full 14 days. So kind of a much more manageable, and that's from the day of contact. So the day you're notified, maybe day two or three of the quarantine period. So you may be in there, 6, 7, 8 days, depending on, how that all plays out. But the quarantine has been shortened by 4 days, as long as we can do a test on day 10 and get you back into your classes and moving forward there. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier if somebody finds themselves in that situation. All right. The big change in the state and nationally is that the vaccination process has begun. Those of you who are in Massachusetts may know, there is a 3-phase rollout for this. We are still in phase 1. I watched the governor today who said we're in phase 2, and then he said we're not in phase 2. So I'm not quite sure, like we're on the verge of being in phase 2, but it's not starting yet. I don't know what he meant. But even within phase 1, there were tiers. So it was people, healthcare workers, first responders who were working directly with COVID people, and the second tier, and the last tier were non-COVID related healthcare workers. On campus, our health and counseling staff has been vaccinated, or stage 1. They're waiting, waiting for the 3 weeks for their second dose, as well as employees in the testing site. Most of us fall into phase 3. There are several tiers to phase 2. There's a lot of people in phase 2. It's people with different comorbidities, people different age groups, people in congregate housing settings, not including campuses, unfortunately, who all fall into phase 2. So phase 2 is going to take some time. We don't know if we'll be in phase 3 in time to run a clinic on campus. Because unless the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is a single shot, is out there, we need to have a 3-week window where both doses, or else the first dose is wasted. So currently, the 2 that have been approved are 2-dose vaccines. We are working very closely with the town of Paxton. If we do hit that window, if it goes quickly than anticipated, we'll have clinics on campus so students and employees can be vaccinated on campus. However, there's a very good possibility that Massachusetts won't be in phase 3 until late April or May, in which case we can't do it. So again, stay tuned. But the message I want you to hear is if we can, we will, because we want as many people to be as vaccinated as possible. If you have been vaccinated because you're an EMT, you're in a state with a different tier system or whatever it is, you're still required to follow all of our protocols on campus. Not just to be consistent, and so we're not trying to keep a list of who is or who isn't, but what we're being told now by the medical field is that if I have the vaccine, I won't get sick, but the virus could still be in my body and I could still shed it until the antibodies killed off the virus in my body. So there's a couple of days in there where I could still be contagious to other people, even though I'm safe myself from the vaccine. So to prevent that spread, I'd still be wearing a mask. I'd still be keeping 6 feet away. And no, I'm still in phase 3 like all of you, but I was using myself as an example. But so the student EMTs on campus who may have been vaccinated at their place of work over the summer, they'll need to wear a mask and follow all the protocols when they're on our campus as well. Other things, the residence halls will be much the same as you saw, except we are going to open the kitchens, the common area kitchens in the halls. There will be occupancy limits there. bring all your own utensils and everything, but we feel that there's we're comfortable with that. That high-touch surfaces still need to be cleaned regularly, but the transmission being so heavily airborne, we know we can do that safely, so we're going to make that change. Commuters, you'll see the microwaves return in the commuter lounge and other public places for that as well. So we heard you were able to do that. The dining hall will run much like it did in the fall. The first week of classes, it'll be pickup only. And then beginning with the second week, we'll have the open table. So we'll be able to reserve and have some seated dining in the dining hall as well. I have a note here to talk about athletics. I know our athletic director's on the call if people have more detailed questions for him for an hour later. But the short version is we have one team, the hockey team on campus now. We're part of alliance with schools that have protocols as strict as ours. So we're comfortable with them playing each other. And they're working very hard to do the same thing with all the spring sports, as well as provide some activity for the fall sports to keep them occupied as well. So, I can tell you that everybody, but particularly Director Brady, speaks very passionately about wanting to give the spring athletes who lost their schedule in their seasons last spring something this spring. Again, it'll be done safely. It'll be done against other schools who are as safe as we are to protect not just the athletes, but our entire community. And then the document on, starting on, it's page 40 on the Adobe Reader, does have an FAQ section. So if you want to even start there, read through the FAQs. If there's something you can't find in the document, they're all there. But as always, if you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to President Rattel or any of the staff on campus, and we'll be glad to help you. Last 2 points. I know that we made a lot of announcements about the seasonal flu shot requirement. Last week, the government from Massachusetts did roll that back. So now we won't be requiring you to have the seasonal flu shot to come on campus. But if you already have it, that's great. And then in the email I sent out, and again, I'll include the link in future emails, there is a return to campus form we want all students to fill out to let us know if you tested positive over break, if you were a close contact with somebody over break. And again, if it was more than 2 weeks ago, we're not going to make you quarantine, but we'd still like to know just for our records. And your quarantine plans and a couple other key questions. So that should be filled out within 48 hours of returning. So it's as current as possible. So don't fill it out yet. I appreciate some of you are really, you want to get things done and off your checklist, but 2 days before you're coming to campus would be the time to fill that out for us to let us know those questions. So my future messages will continue to have that link, and we'll put that link on the COVID webpage as well for you. So thank you. I know it got a little bit long there, but I wanted to go over some key changes and key points in there. So President Rattel, I'll kind of turn it back to you for any questions and answers that anybody has.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Klein. And you can see he's been a great resource, not only for the institution, for Anna Maria, but he's been a terrific resource for many of the other colleges here. So I thank you for that. And I'm glad you brought up the spring sports. Again, I'm in close contact and conversation with Director Brady. It's our primary, related to sports, our primary mission to make sure that lacrosse, softball, and baseball are on the docket, and we're going to do our best and within safety protocols to make that happen. That's already a big discussion right now. By the way, we're not the only colleges and universities that have no spring break. For the most part, I don't think I've talked to one of my colleagues across the board that has a spring break. So, I know that that's not a desirable, but it's just the way that it just makes sense, particularly for this year. I'm sorry that there aren't more of the students on the call. I think we have about the same number as we started in 1946, with about 30-something students on the call. I guess maybe you all decided that to celebrate the 75th anniversary. But what I do encourage you to do is this. Reach out to your classmates, reach out to your friends, and let them know that they should be reading this protocol book, and that they're free to reach out to us as well. I know there's a lot of questions out there, and I also know you're tired of this type of meeting. I think we all are. It's not the most desirable way. It's not the Anna Maria way, certainly. But it is right now the only effective way we have to communicate. So when there are future calls, encourage everyone to participate. The more that are on the calls, the more we get the information out, and the more we have a successful semester, no matter what.